The family of Eric Garner seeking justice in his death, and they're holding the NYPD and 6 of its officers accountable, as you know, from that scene here that's now indelible for many. Garner died on Staten Island over the summer after being put in a chokehold for allegedly selling loose cigarettes. The family now seeking $75 million in a lawsuit against the NYPD and those involved. NYPD manual says chokeholds are banned. However, a new report out by the CCRB, Citizens Complaint Review Board, shows chokeholds are actually up within the department. Board saying that between July of 2013 and June of this year, it received 219 chokehold complaints. Board says it hasn't seen that level of activity since between 2006 and 10. And board also found that in the past decade, the NYPD failed to charge officers with chokehold violations because they informally redefined the definition of a chokehold. And here's where it gets even more confusing, I think, for folks. The mayor, okay, let alone the police commissioner, but even the mayor said there's still a place for chokeholds in some place. How do you define what is an acceptable or unacceptable procedure, Mayo, if even the mayor, let alone the police department, not everyone can even agree on what is and is not banned and when it can't be used?
I think that mayors, politicians should be very careful to start getting into this debate because they're not law enforcement professionals. And unless they're law enforcement professionals, they really are inserting themselves into an area that they probably should stay away from. As far as I can see, there's no need for a chokehold because you have so many other tools available. And I could see perhaps if someone said I'm by myself and I'm struggling with a person that's bigger than me and that's all I could do, that's one story. But when you look at it and you have 8 officers present, there's no need for it. You have pepper spray that's right there. You have a taser in a worst case scenario. I tend to think that tasers shouldn't be used because it presents such a health issue. But you have batons, you have so many other things that you can use. So to use the chokehold, when you understand clearly what the ramifications can be and what it can do to somebody, it's just unnecessary.
But now flip the script here. You guys are defending the officers in question, right? You can say, hey, my own department is giving me mixed messages when I am and not. And even the mayor, who's against community policing, right, and all the rest here and broken windows, even he says there's a place for it. Don't they have, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but don't they have a legal argument to say, time out? How can you guys say what I did was wrong when even my superiors can't agree one way or the other?
That's clearly going to be part of the defense. And look, it's a legitimate claim. Whether it holds any water in this case, once everybody puts sound to that video, and that's really the question here. But it is legitimate, and what it highlights is something that we've been talking about for quite some time. You have to define what is permissible, and then you have to not only train the officers, you have to continue training the officers. They need to be ever cognizant of what they're able to do, what they're not able to do. They had so many options in this case.
And by the way, Rich, you know, the public has been trained now. The public is looking at this video, and you see the number of complaints going up because now people are looking at that and saying, you know, that was done to me. So I don't think you're looking at more chokeholds. You're looking at a more educated population.
Well, you mentioned video, Doug, and I want you, you've probably seen this. I don't know how much of it my audience has. We've seen countless cases of police using what looks, at least to the naked eye, to be excessive force across the country. Remember this incident? We talked about it last week in South Carolina. A police officer started firing at an unarmed guy. Again, this was for a seatbelt violation. He was asked to get his license. You see him in there. He reached in to get it. There was no gun in the car, and he was shot numerous times. Thank God he survived. He suffered shots to the hip, and if you hear the audio, he said, why? Why did you do it? What did I do? Officer was terminated after it. In Indiana, if you've seen this scene, family is suing the police department. Again, this is over a seatbelt violation for the use of excessive force. That's after the police were caught on camera bashing the car window in and tasing the passenger in the vehicle because he wouldn't produce his ID. Not the driver, but the person who was a passenger in the front seat. He reached in his back apparently to get and you see him there screaming after he was shot in the back with the taser. Okay. Couple things are going on. We live in a day and age where everybody's got a phone on them 24/7 with these smartphones. It seems to have changed the dynamic. I could just think in both of these incidents, right? There'd be different versions that we portray if you didn't see the video to shake it out one way or the other. Sometimes it helps the police, but at least in these circumstances, it certainly says, where's the discretion here, let alone the judgment? Is this the new normal? In terms of the video now is such a critical element in all these things?
I think it is. And you know, the expression, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? I mean, now you have an actual eyewitness photographs or movies of what's going on. It's going to take a lot of the debate out of this.
Will it though, or do you get to, Mayo, and you've been involved in this on both sides of this, do you get to a point where you say, one side says, listen, this is real time, this is live, sure I received training, but the guy made a sudden movement here, I'm taught to protect myself, I thought he was going for a gun. How much of this is, hey, it looks wrong, but you know what? The guy used judgment, albeit flawed, and he has discretion in real-time situations to do that.
I think a lot of it goes back to what Jim was talking about having consistent training when you go into the academy, but ongoing training while you're in service. And the other part of it is just basic common sense, what's reasonable. So we've had a number of cases where, but for video, we probably wouldn't have brought the lawsuit, but with the video, we conceded the guy saying, sir, I'm not doing anything wrong, officer. Why are you hitting me? We see the officer bring the guy over to behind the trees and the fence, and we see him beating the guy there. So that's something that helps us. At the same time, we've had video where the client, gives us one version and the video shows that it's something else, and we say, wait a minute, these officers really weren't acting in a way that was improper. Sometimes they're actually great, and you say, well, wow, we're not going to bring a case here. These guys should be.
I want to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to make Doug very happy here. We're going to be talking about why, since 2008, so few folks in the financial sector have been held responsible, even after the collapse that nearly took us off the fiscal edge here. And AIG, do they have a case, or is this the ultimate case of chutzpah you've ever seen? We'll talk about both of those after this.